Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to film this video today because if you didn't already read the title of the video, I am pregnant, and this is just such an exciting time for me and my husband Riley. We're so excited to share this big news for our family with you guys. And this is something that has been a long time coming, and it's just, I'm just so thrilled to be able to share our story, and I just can't even tell you how excited I am to film this video. In fact, I have a box of tissues within reach, which I normally do not. That's not normally a necessity for me when I'm filming a video, but this story and our journey to get to this place has been a winding one, and it just makes me emotional to talk about, but I'm really excited to share. So before I jump in, I do want to tell you that I have written out the full story of before we conceived and finding out and telling Riley and telling friends and family and how I've been feeling. A lot of the things that I'm going to cover in this video, or that I plan on covering, I have already written about on my blog. So I will link that blog post above. If you're more of a reader, you can get pretty much all of the same information over there. If you've already read my blog post, I'm going to add in some extra things here, but just so that you know that. A lot of the main, frequently asked questions that surround pregnancy. Are you going to find out whether the baby's a boy or a girl? When are you due? How have you been feeling? What are your cravings? All that kind of stuff is in that blog post, as well as our journey to get to this point. So if you want to read the blog post, it will be linked in that iCard above, and then I will also throw a link below. Now you'll have to excuse me. Pregnancy, one of my weirdest symptoms has been that I am just so out of breath. I'm 15 weeks along today, on the day of filming this, and I only have a little bump, but I am telling you from the very beginning, I have been so breathless. So in my videos that I've been filming over the past few months since I've gotten pregnant, I have had to cut out like major parts of videos where I've been taking deep breaths because I just get so breathless, even just talking right now, which has been kind of funny. So let's start at the beginning. Always a good place to start. Now, I will say that before I jump into the story, I did ask on Instagram this morning, and I announced on Instagram. That's the very first place I announced. So if you don't already follow me, that's going to be the first place that we will announce whether the baby is a boy or a girl, most likely. Most likely that will be the first place when we will announce that the baby has arrived in October. So if you like Instagram and you want to follow along, my handle is Blair Blogs, BLAIR BLOGS. And you can go ahead and follow along there. The link is always below. This is going to be a long video, I think, and I'm probably going to be out of breath for quite a lot of it, but bear with me. So I do have this blog post pulled up because I chronicled our journey to conception on the blog post, and I think it will be helpful for me to stay on track while I'm filming this video. On Instagram, the other thing I wanted to say was that this morning I did ask if anyone had any specific questions or topics they wanted me to discuss in this video or share about with regards to my pregnancy and the first trimester, which is now behind me. And so some of those questions I'll try to answer as I am telling our story. And then whatever I don't answer, I'll try to answer at the end. And then I'm sure there will still be more. And I can do like a pregnancy Q&A or something like that for those the leftover questions, because I won't be able to get to everything without this video being 4 hours long. So let's just jump right in. We started trying to get pregnant in the beginning of 2018. And I was surprised to see that I got so many questions of people asking how we knew when the right time to try was, because I don't think I expected that to be a common question, but I mean, probably 25 people sent me a message and said, I would love for you to tell me how you guys knew that it was the right time for you to start trying to have a baby. And it's a really valid question because it's a huge change, right? Getting pregnant is a huge change, and having a baby and adding a family member is obviously like a huge, massive change for any marriage. So the funny thing is that I would describe, well, first of all, I have always known, and Riley has always known, that we wanted to be a mom and a dad, that we both wanted to be parents my whole life. In fact, I wrote a blog post back in probably maybe 2013, 2014. I think I was single. I was definitely not engaged or married, and I wrote a blog post called "When I Grow Up, All I Want to Be Is a Mom." I can link that above. It's a sweet post to read, especially now. But that has been my heart for a very, very long time, that I've wanted to be a mother. And something since I was a little girl that I've always known. So it wasn't like a matter of whether or not we wanted to have children. We had always wanted to have children. It was more a matter of timing. The funny thing is, when we got married, on our wedding day actually, we had a lot of friends and family saying to us, like jokingly, call us when you get pregnant, you know, like I'll be looking out for that pregnancy announcement and things like that, because everybody knew that I really, really wanted to be a mom and that Riley wanted to be a dad, and they assumed that we would start trying right away. And honestly, when we first got married, we thought, let's give it maybe 6 months of just us being married, or maybe a year, and then let's jump in. Like, we want to start a family. Well, I don't like when people say start a family, because we started a family on July 31st, 2015 when we got married. But we were like, let's jump in and grow our family right away. And we're pretty short, you know, to right away, like 6 months in, 12 months in. And I always describe it like this. If there were a dial and the dial went from not ready to have kids, or like doesn't want to start trying to have kids, to wants to be pregnant like 100%, if there was a dial that kind of went like that, it felt like after we got married and we were praying about whether we wanted to grow our family and these kinds of things, it felt like God took that dial and turned it all the way down for me. Not off, but just all the way down. And I had this deep-rooted peace that it was not the right time for us to grow our family and to jump into that whole world of trying to conceive and all of that. In retrospect, I can completely see why, and those of you who have followed along with my journey over the past 3 or 4 years are probably nodding your heads like, yeah, girl, I can see why that wasn't the right time. Because what I didn't know when I got married was how challenging the next couple of years would be for me. They were very, very lonely, difficult, isolating years, not because of my marriage. In fact, that was and has been my like saving grace, safe spot through all of this. But in terms of finding community, finding my place, figuring out life in this new place, like all of that has been just so challenging. And I just felt like the Lord was giving me this peace, and it was sort of along the lines of, a baby is not going to solve this deep lack of contentment and this like sadness that I was dealing with during that time. A lot of this is covered in my Rooted series, and so a lot of you who have followed along, like I said, are probably like, yeah, we get why that would not have been maybe the best time to jump in. And so I really went with that. You know, I am a very faithful woman, and I love Jesus, and I know that he has a plan for me, and I have followed his plan, and he has never led me astray. And so when I really felt like that dial was turned down and like it wasn't the right time, I was super peaceful about that. It wasn't the kind of thing where every day I was praying and hoping that it would change and that I would really want to start having, like, I didn't feel like that. I felt like Riley and I were really happy in our marriage, and that we were growing and building a life together as a couple, and that was enough. And I really genuinely felt peaceful during those first couple of years of waiting to start trying to conceive. And Riley felt this very same way. Of course, if we were on 2 different pages, this conversation would be different, but he really felt the same way. He felt like, you know, I want to have kids, but I really feel like we are kind of being asked to wait a little while to let some dust settle and some things to get worked out. And I'm really grateful for those years that we had together, just the two of us. For us, in our situation and on our journey, it was definitely the right call. So we had been talking at the end of, like in the fall of 2017. By that point, we had been married for over 2 years. We had started opening up this can of worms conversation about trying to conceive and when we wanted to start trying and that kind of thing. And had kind of just like, it felt to us at least, like a little bit like jumping off a cliff. It was this kind of thing of like, this is going to be such an amazing, wild journey, but it's also, there's this whole element to it that's, I've found, and Riley felt the same way, very, very unknown and kind of scary, because you just don't know how any of it's going to go. And so I really didn't have a peace in my heart, and that dial still felt really low. Until this one day, I was sitting in our back room in our den, which has windows that overlook our backyard. Now, our backyard is very, very small, and we have a very tall fence around the perimeter of the yard that came with the house. And so we don't see, literally, except for Charley and sometimes the random neighbor dogs that dig into our yard, which if you follow me on Instagram, you see that. We don't see wildlife in our backyard at all. Like there's zero. We don't see birds, we don't see deer, we don't see anything. There's like a rogue turtle that we see from time to time, but overall that's like it. And so the reason why I'm telling you this is because I was sitting in our den and I was sitting on the couch and just thinking and praying about this exact thing, about, God, is it time for us to start trying to get pregnant? Like I just felt really conflicted. I just wasn't sure. And there's this beautiful, huge cardinal, bright red cardinal that came and landed like directly where I was looking in the backyard. And I don't know if cardinals symbolize anything, like historically. If you know, I would genuinely love to hear, because I don't know of any symbolism of cardinals, but there probably is something. But this cardinal landed in our backyard, and I was looking at it and just thinking, wow, that's so beautiful. Like we never get to see anything in our backyard. And in that moment, I had this rush, I don't know how to describe it, like this rush of energy flow through me, or like this rush of peace. And it was just very clear to me, like, it's time for us to start trying to get pregnant. It's that this season has opened or begun, and I just can't explain it. It was a very spiritual experience for me. And so I sat down with Riley a little while later and kind of explained, and he said that he had had a very similar experience in his own world, where he felt like it was time. So the two of us were in agreement that it was time. That little knob had been turned all the way up for both of us. We were very much ready to get pregnant and to grow our family, and we both felt a huge peace about it and felt like we had had some amazing years being a married couple and traveling and building our world and our businesses and our life and our home. And it was time, and we felt very peaceful that God was in agreement that it was time for us to try to bring a baby into the world. So that's kind of the story of how we knew that we felt like it was time to conceive. And what was really special is that as the journey went on, there were many days when I was really struggling because it took us some time to get pregnant. When I would see a cardinal and it would just bring me this peace, and it was like such a weird and amazing kiss on the forehead from God of like, I'm here, I see you, I'm with you, and it makes me cry thinking about it. And I haven't forgotten you. And so here's this sign of like, I'm going to fulfill this desire of your heart, basically. So actually at Christmas time, I went and bought this really cool cardinal ornament, and we were not pregnant at Christmas time, but it was kind of this symbol of God's promise to us. And so anyway, we hung it on our tree, and now everywhere when we bring it out, I'm sure there will be tears shed. So that's the story of how we knew we were ready. And we walked into trying to conceive very, very casually. We have practiced what's called the fertility awareness method, which is basically I just very thoroughly track my cycle and symptoms, and it helps me know when I am fertile and when I'm not fertile, and so we adjust accordingly. And so I felt very assured that we would get pregnant quickly, because I was like, I know my body so well, and I really thought that, and that wasn't our reality. That's not what happened. So the end of 2017, we kind of got a little more lax with the fertility awareness method, and then in 2018 is when we really actually started to try. And when I say try, what I mean is I was tracking my cycle very intently, taking my temperature every morning, using ovulation strips, which tell you when you're ovulating, which when you're ovulating is when you are able to actually conceive and get pregnant, doing all those sorts of things to really try to conceive. And so when we first started to try, both of us felt very, very relaxed and peaceful, and we felt like it's going to happen and it's okay if it takes a little while. We were not in a rush. And so, you know, the months came and went, months came and went, months came and went, and each month I would just see lots of negative pregnancy tests. I would always try to wait and like test, you know, late or whatever, but I would buy those bulk ones on Amazon and just take, which are really, really, really inexpensive, and I would just take like a million tests every single month. I don't really recommend doing that. It was really deflating, but that's what I would do. And so I would just see all these negative tests at month after month after month. So for about 6 months or so, I remained in what I would describe as relatively good spirits. Certainly, you know, the day when my cycle would start each month wasn't my favorite day of the month, and there was definitely some sadness attached to that. But overall, I felt very peaceful, and overall, I felt like I know that it can take a lot of couples time to conceive, and that's okay. And I didn't feel like I was in any rush, and we just kind of were just going with the flow and seeing when it would happen for us. Well, the calendar kept moving on, kept moving on, kept moving on. There were a couple of months during this period of time where I was absolutely convinced that I had conceived, that we were pregnant. Convinced. I mean, my body felt really, really different, and my temperatures were different and things like that. But it's hard for me to know whether I actually did, and then the baby didn't implant correctly, or whether I didn't and I was just totally like symptom spotting and kind of making it up in my head. There's no way for me to know now, because I never did get a positive test throughout the whole year. But it's just an emotional roller coaster. And for those of you who have been through this journey or are on this journey, I know that you know the sort of roller coaster that it is, where you're hopeful at the beginning of each month, and then you try to get pregnant, and then you have that 2-week wait before you can test, and that 2-week wait is really hard. And then you start testing and you're seeing negatives and negatives and negatives. And then then you get your cycle and it's devastating, and then you start it all over again and you try to be hopeful. And it's like this, I've never been on any emotional roller coaster like it, and it was just really hard. So after those like 6 months of being pretty okay, things started to unravel a little bit for me in terms of that like secure peace that I had been feeling. I started feeling a lot more anxious, a lot more nervous, a lot more sad and disappointed each month. And I've heard it said before that there's no wait like waiting on a baby. And I can affirm that for me and in my journey and in my story, that was absolutely true. It was excruciating. It was very difficult. It was very hard to hear friends and family getting pregnant. I mean, every couple of days I would get online and everybody was getting pregnant. And it's just hard. It's just hard. So if you're in that place, I wish we could just go sit and get a cup of coffee and just cry together and just talk about it, because it is lonely and isolating, and it's just really hard. When you want to be pregnant and you're not pregnant, it's just painful. It was hard. I mean, it was hard. For me, felt like a very private struggle. It was not something that at that time, you know, by the middle of the year, when things started to kind of unravel and I wasn't feeling quite so peaceful, as the months continuously went on through the end of 2018, I got more and more into a more difficult place, and still had not opened up to friends or family about really what we were going through. And that isolation was so challenging. I just felt so alone, and it was just hard. I mean, I know I keep saying it was hard, but for those of you who, like I said, have been in this place or are in this place, I know that you understand. And I'm really sorry, because it is very isolating and very difficult, and just disappointing. It's just hard. It's hard and exhausting. It was really exhausting. So what was the breaking point for me was kind of late fall. So to back up just a little bit before I get into that, in September, I started going to therapy again. I have been to therapists in the past to a therapist in the past, and it was a very healing journey for me, and I've talked about that before. And come September, it was very clear to me that I was going to need extra professional support to get through the end of the year, and especially if we didn't know what we were looking at that point, whether it was a matter of time or whether it was a matter of medical intervention or both. Like, we didn't know at that stage what the rest of our journey was going to look like, and I was coming undone. In addition to not getting pregnant and really wanting to be pregnant and the heartbreak that is, there were also other big, very hard things going on in our lives, things changing dramatically and quickly. And that is a whole other story for a whole other time. But to just boil it down, I have mentioned briefly online before, our church dramatically changed in the fall, and I felt like I lost my community and my sense of family in town overnight. And I really can't talk about it yet. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. It was very, very, very devastating to me. And so to have that coincide with this end of the year, like really wanting to be pregnant before the new year type of thing, and I was not in a great place. Let's say that. I was not in a great place. So I started going to a therapist in September, which is the single best decision I made throughout our whole journey, and something that just helped me so very much in making it through day by day and really figuring out how to live life and not be sad all the time. So anyway, there was a lot going on in fall. Well, the hardest time for me was around the holidays, because all year long, I had said to Riley, because it was a year where we were going to my hometown in Maryland for Thanksgiving. And so all year, every month when I did not get pregnant, I would say to Riley, just as long as we're pregnant by Thanksgiving, because I had daydreamed all the time about breaking this great news to my family over Thanksgiving dinner. And it was this like beacon of hope that I like clung to, this like Thanksgiving pregnancy announcement. And I just held so tightly to that being what was going to happen. And so when we were about to fly out to Maryland and I realized that I was not pregnant, I was devastated, totally brokenhearted, really, really sad, very isolated. I still hadn't opened up to anyone about what was going on. It was hard. Once again, it was just challenging. So we flew to Baltimore for Thanksgiving and enjoyed it the best that we could. You know, I had a nice time. It's always really nice to go home and see friends and family. But I had this piece of me that was just so broken. And I remember, it's hard to think back on this. I remember sitting at Thanksgiving dinner, and this seems kind of silly now, but like those of you who, like I said, have been there or are there, I know that you understand this. You hold, like when you're looking for hope, you just hold on to these little things, and this Thanksgiving dinner announcement was like this weird thing that I just like held on to. And so I remember sitting at Thanksgiving dinner and looking around and knowing that, of course, I couldn't announce to my loved ones, my closest family, you know, that we were expecting, because we were not expecting. And I remember like passing the rolls and just fighting back tears. I've gotten pretty far without crying. That's pretty good. And just fighting back tears because I was just so sad. I was just so sad that that wasn't our reality. So I continued seeing a therapist every Friday, and truly that was like my beacon of hope in the week. It was like the one time where I could go and sit on her couch and just like totally come undone. And I felt like I could just be completely honest about exactly how I was feeling, about exactly what we were going through, about how frustrated I was that I was losing my community, and that I also wasn't pregnant, and that it was just like everything was falling apart and my life felt completely out of control, and I just was like just falling apart, really. And I don't really like thinking back on those weeks. Not my best weeks of life. Truly not my best weeks of life. So Thanksgiving came and went. Christmas came and went. The New Year came and went. My birthday, Riley's birthday, both in December. Everything came and went, all the holidays. Which, when you're struggling to get pregnant, the holidays are slightly brutal. It was just very hard. So anyway, the calendar flipped to 2019, which was sad. It was sad because, you know, I had planned all year in 2018, my like total life plan was to get pregnant at some point during the year, and that didn't happen. And so my therapist really encouraged me to take a step back for at least a few months in the new year, to stop trying to conceive. And what I mean by that is not to stop having sex. What I mean by that is to stop charting, using ovulation strips, counting days, tracking cycles. It's basically like, just live your life, and for a few months, don't think about trying to get pregnant and hitting that fertile window and all of that. And when she first told me that, my first thought was, you're crazy. No, I'm not doing that. I was totally averse to the idea. I thought it was so foolish. I was just like, I'm not gonna not try to get pregnant when that's the one thing that we want so badly. So that was my first reaction. It was like, I don't know if you're like, I don't know what your deal is, but I'm not gonna just stop trying for the thing that we want so much. And then one Sunday I was standing in church, and we were singing a song, a worship song, and I had my hand resting on my belly, and I was just praying for a baby. And it was like the cardinal experience. It was this spiritual experience where I had this feeling of like literal warmth come into my body, and this overwhelming, crazy peace just poured over me. And oh, I'm so sorry. I'm trying so hard not to cry. I just experienced this rush of peace for the first time in like months, like a lot of months. And I just started weeping. And Riley was like, oh my gosh. For those of you who know Riley or who have watched my videos and know, to some degree, you know Riley, my husband. He is the most steady, peaceful, like everything that I'm not. Steady, peaceful, even-keeled. He doesn't get, like life doesn't throw him around. He's not affected by the ups and downs of life to the degree that I am, like, at all. God bless him. He helps me so much. So he's like, oh my gosh, because I'm just standing in church and I just like start sobbing. And it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. One of the things that I always know in my life that is from God is the feeling of being completely at peace, because in my own flesh and who I am not a naturally peaceful person. I am naturally a worrier. I am naturally anxious. That is my complete inclination, and my personality's inclination is to be very wound up. So when I feel total peace about something, it is from God, and I always know that it's from God. And it was like the cardinal thing, and then this moment was this like very overwhelming feeling of peace, and it allowed me in that moment to like let go of this obsession with wanting to be pregnant, which is not a bad thing to want, but I was twisting my whole life up because of this desire. And so it was in that moment that I feel like I really was able to lay it down. And it wasn't that I no longer wanted to be pregnant, because I wanted to be pregnant more than ever, and we wanted to have a baby more than ever, but it was more of letting go of this like tight grip and like trying to obsessively control everything. And it was just like a release. It was a release. And this was in December. And so as the new year came, I took my therapist's advice, and she was like, what if you just put your thermometer, which those of you who, when you're temping and you're trying to track your cycle, she's like, what if you just put your thermometer and whatever else in like your attic? And so that's what I did. I just took all that stuff and just like put it away, and just thought, I'm just going to take a few months off. And of course, all of these things that I'm saying, you know, that we did, Riley and I had conversations about, prayed about, and were in agreement about. It wasn't like I was just like, you know, calling every shot without his input. He was completely involved in every single piece of this. And so that's what we did. And so we did some radical things that we hadn't done throughout the whole of 2018. We booked a 2-week long, huge, big trip to Europe. And we actually would be leaving in like a couple of, I don't know when this video is going to go up, but we would be leaving in very late April and going for like a couple of weeks into May. And we had like this cool, really cool trip planned. And we had, we booked the plane tickets, like fully booked them, booked a hotel where we were booking excursions, completely all in, like things were booked. It wasn't like a dreamy trip, like we were booking things because we kind of were deciding that in 2019, whatever happened, we weren't going to put our entire life on hold while we waited. And so we were just making moves and plans and doing things that we wouldn't necessarily do if I was pregnant, but that we were going to kind of do. So we booked this amazing trip we've been talking about for years, and all of that. So this was in the beginning, you know, 2019, and I don't want to act like suddenly I never struggled and that I suddenly was never sad or disappointed. I definitely was. And there were definitely days of sadness and disappointment, and there were moments of crumbling to the floor and sobbing. And there was one time when I logged onto Facebook, and the first 8 posts on my Facebook feed were pregnancy announcements, and I literally threw my phone across the room and just like crumbled to the ground. It's just so hard. It just stings. There's such a sting to not being pregnant and watching other people become pregnant. It's just not fun. So anyway, I don't want to act like suddenly everything changed, but there was a massive shift from the late fall into the new year. A very big shift in my world and in my heart, of just deciding not to be quite so wound up in this, and trying to find ways to move forward with our lives without this being the one and only focus 24/7. So that is the story. So during that time also, I felt very pulled and called by both my relationship with God and my therapist to slow down on work. During this period of the late fall, I threw myself into my work like you couldn't believe. I mean, I was working tons and tons of hours, pumping out videos, Christmas cookie week. I don't know where my brain went during that. That was so much work. Just all kinds of constant content. So many Etsy sales. I mean, there were times when I had 250 or 300 open orders on Etsy, which for me is a whole lot. I mean, it was crazy amount of work, but I was doing it as fully as a distraction because I didn't want to have to deal with my feelings and what I was going through in my personal life on a variety of different levels. And so that's what I was doing. Well, as the new year approached and I was having this kind of heart shift and mind shift, one of the other things my therapist really challenged me to do was to slow down on work and not use that as just a complete crutch and distraction. So as many of you know, I really cut back on video content creation, on blog posts. I stopped accepting mentees. I closed my Etsy shop for a period of time, and when I reopened it, I didn't like launch a whole bunch of new things. Everything just slowed down for me, which I think was good for me physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of that. Hard because it was hard. It's hard when you use a distraction as a crutch. You have to actually deal with what's going on in your heart, but it was I think it was a good thing. So that was January. Well, during this time, like I said, we were not trying to get pregnant again. Someone yesterday on Instagram was like, I don't understand if you were not trying how you got pregnant. And I'm like, well, because we're married and we're still sleeping together. Like, I don't know how to put it less bluntly. What I mean is that we were not like tracking, charting. There was none of that going on. So in early January, we decided that it would be a good decision for me to go to a preliminary fertility appointment. I had been told by my doctor that I needed to wait a full year of trying before, given my age and health. She said, you're going to wait a full year and then we will start, opening up doors and things like that and figuring out what the next right step is for you if you haven't conceived within a year. Well, of course, when she told me that, I'm like, well, I'll conceive within a year, but that was not my story. So I went to this appointment. It was really hard. It's just a hard appointment to go in there. I had to write on the form, why are you here? We can't get pregnant or haven't gotten pregnant yet or whatever. But after that appointment, she ran a few tests on me, and it was the type of thing where she said, there's nothing obviously wrong with you. So the next step is for both you and Riley, of course, because there is such a thing as male factor infertility, to go get tested with an infertility specialist. So it would no longer be in my, OBGYN's office. This would be at a separate place, a fertility clinic or, whatever. And so that was an appointment that we were putting on the books and that kind of thing. We decided to wait to go and have that appointment until after we went on our big Disney World trip. Disney World is our happy place. It is a place where both of us feel completely peaceful, relaxed. We have our hearts just feel really light. It is our happy place. Everyone has a happy place. Disney World is our happy place. So we were like, we're going to go to Disney first. So we went to Disney. Now, what I did not know is that 3 days before we left for Disney, we had conceived and we had gotten pregnant. When I say that I had no idea, I mean, I had no idea. I didn't think it was possible. You have to understand my mental state at this time. I was 100% convinced that we were going down the road of treatments. And so I was thinking that until we went down that road, we would not be getting pregnant. Because for however many, 12, 13, however many cycles, we had not. So there was no part of me that even considered. I just can't, I want to just convey what a shock this was that this happened. I mean, I was shocked. I had no idea. So anyway, a few days before Disney, so we go to Disney. Now, I was so distracted and having such a good time at Disney, plus the part of my brain that was like, I wonder if you're pregnant, was turned off. There was none of that going on. While I was in Disney, in retrospect, there were a few things that could have been red flags of like, maybe you are with child, but you have to understand that there was no part of me that thought that was possible. But the things that these things were number one, I kept gagging. Which is not, I mean, for most people that's not normal, right? Definitely for me that's not normal. Just on a normal day, just like gagging. But like if I would smell something when we were walking through a park, I would just start gagging. There were multiple times. Riley was like chewing this gum and it like really grossed me out and it made me start gagging. But I can't believe I didn't think about this, but you have to understand, like I said, my mental state of mind. I didn't think about it at all. Another thing was that I was incredibly exhausted. Exhausted. Now, if you've been to Disney World, it is huge and there's a lot of walking. But this was 2016, 17, 18, 19. This is the fourth time we've gone in the past 4 years. So me being tired in Disney is not unusual to any degree. However, I was exhausted. I mean, I was absolutely exhausted. I just don't know how else to say it. And so that should have been an indicator, but it wasn't. And the third thing is that I absolutely love Dole Whip floats. They are my most favorite snack at Disney. It is a pineapple soft serve. And then they put pineapple juice in the bottom. So it's like in this little cup and there's pineapple juice in the bottom and then pineapple soft serve. It's like one of my favorite treats in the entire world. I think about them and crave them every day of the year. when we were there, I didn't get a Dole Whip float. Usually I eat literally 3 or 4 throughout the week that we're there because it's my absolute favorite thing ever. And I didn't even want one until the night before we were leaving to come home on a Saturday morning. That Friday night, we were in Magic Kingdom, which is a place where you can get them. And I said to Riley, well, I haven't even had one. I guess I should go get one. But I remember saying to him, I'm not even really that interested. So I went and got one. And so all 3 of those things of like not wanting a food that is one of my favorite foods, gagging at all kinds of random things and being totally exhausted. Those are the 3 symptoms that in retrospect, in hindsight, I can see, but I had no concept or clue at the time because it didn't even seem like a possibility to me that I could be pregnant. Now, there are some of you who have, since I announced on Instagram, who have said that you suspected that I was pregnant when you watched my Disney vlogs, which is funny to me because I need you to know that I had 0 concept. And I would also like to say that I hope you don't think I'm the worst mom ever already because I had no idea. And so I was drinking a cocktail with dinner every night. I was riding every single ride and roller coaster. I mean, I acted like I was not pregnant because I did not think I was pregnant at all. When I found out, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been going buck wild. What am I doing? But I had no clue. I also want to thank those of you who have suspected at any time in the past year if you thought I was pregnant, or if in January watching my Disney vlogs you thought I was pregnant. I want to thank those of you who chose not to comment and say, are you pregnant, or I think you're pregnant. I want to thank those of you who chose not to do that, because what I need you to know is that I know that some of you who did that thought it was, maybe didn't think, I don't know really what you kind of thought the reaction would be, but they're one of the main reasons why I ended up giving my comments over to Riley, and he now approves 100% of my YouTube comments. And I respond to them personally, but he does the approvals, is because so many people would comment and say, I think you're pregnant, or are you pregnant? And those comments would make me crumble. It was so sad to me to read those because I just wanted to respond and say, you have no idea what we're going through. And they were very, very upsetting to me. So I would say that if you, I would not recommend commenting that on anyone's videos or blog posts. They can be very, very painful and just really hurtful. I know that's not the intention, but I just want you to know that those of you who did suspect but kept your mouth shut or kept your fingers not typing, I just want to thank you for that. Thank you for being sensitive to that. Just thank you. Please, thank you. Really, thank you so much. So we come back from Disney, and on February 7th, I woke up and I was feeling very crampy, felt exactly like I was about to start my cycle. So I walked in, I kissed Riley goodbye, he left for work. I walked into the kitchen and I pulled out ibuprofen, which is a pain medication, an anti-inflammatory pain medication. And it's what I always take when my cycle starts because I get really, really bad cramps. So I was going to take that, and I had this voice in my head like, don't take that, Blair. You need to go check if you're pregnant first. And then this other voice in my head like, this is so cruel. I am not pregnant. I do not want to see another negative test. I've seen literally close to 100 negative tests over the past year and some change, and I do not actually want to do this again. And I was like this weird, very much like I was standing there like, should I take this, should I not? Because you're really not supposed to take ibuprofen if you're pregnant. You're also not supposed to ride all kinds of roller coasters and have cocktails at dinner, but I had no clue. Thankfully, our bodies are pretty smart, and the way that pregnancy works, things worked out okay, but yeah. Okay, I just had to change out my memory card because I'm going on and on. Okay, anyway. So I'm going back and forth wondering whether or not I should take this medicine and thinking I should go take a pregnancy test, really not wanting to and not wanting to see another negative pregnancy test. But finally I thought, well, I really actually don't want to be taking this medicine if I am pregnant, so I'm going to go take one. But again, like, I can't stress enough how much I thought there was a 0% chance that I would see a positive test. So I walked into our bathroom and I took the test and I sat it down to process. And I went and washed my hands and brushed my teeth. And then I walked over to, so while I was brushing my teeth, I'm brushing my teeth, and I walk over to look at the test and I see 2 pink lines. And I am not joking, I fully start choking on my toothpaste because I go into shock is the only word to use. I mean, I was shocked. I was completely shocked. And my first thought, a couple of people on Instagram were saying, what was your first reaction? My first reaction was, there's no way. I was like, this is a fluke. There's no way. There's no way. I mean, I was so stunned. And I actually had the thought in that moment to pick up, it was just my phone. I picked up my phone and filmed a clip of myself just after I found out. And I'm going to share that with you here because I love watching it back because it just reminds me what a shock and what a huge surprise of a lifetime seeing that positive pregnancy test was. So I'll play that here. It's Thursday, February 7th. And I thought my period was late, so I just took a pregnancy test. Oh my God. And there's 2 lines on it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm taking like 20 more. I know I'm gonna regret if I don't record this moment. I just can't believe it. I have a digital one processing and then another one. I've taken so many pregnancy tests over the past year. They've all been negative. I can't believe it. This showed up in like 2 minutes. Look how dark the line is. Holy crap. I can't believe it. Oh my God. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So as you can see, I was totally stunned, and my first thought was I need to tell Riley. Now, Riley had just left for work 5 minutes before, and so I was still in my pajamas, and so I like threw on leggings, and it was early February, it was very cold, so I threw on leggings and a winter coat, and I threw on, I think, like my Uggs, and just like whatever I could throw on. And I drove immediately. I had taken 2 more tests, so I took a digital test and then 1 more test. And when the digital test read out pregnant, I thought, oh my gosh, this could be true. Oh my gosh, this might be real. So I pulled it all and whatever, and I drove over to Riley's studio. Now the story is that Riley, in the morning, I had said to him, I will go pick up Starbucks and do a coffee run, and I'll drop some off at your work, which I do a lot. I do like once a week. So that was totally normal, not out of the ordinary at all. And so I pulled up to his studio and I texted him to come outside, which again, I do this a lot. And so he came outside to pick up his coffee, and he comes up and he looks in the cup holders and there's nothing in the cup holders. And I look a mess. I'm like crying. I'm literally shaking like this. Hot mess, hot mess. So he looks in the cup holders and he looks up at me and he's like, you didn't get coffee? Which now is so funny because I'm like, no, I didn't get coffee. So I was just like, get in the car, get in the car. So he came and sat in the passenger seat, and I pulled out the digital test and I said, look what I took this morning. And this moment in our marriage has to be one of like my very favorite moments of all time, ever in our marriage, ever in our relationship, ever in my life. It was just like the most precious moment. The 2 of us, it's like a freezing cold winter February day. We're in this warm car and we were just like crying together. Riley was so thrilled and shocked and so excited, and we're just like rejoicing and crying and just like going through every possible emotion of just like shock, delight, excitement, joyfulness, disbelief, everything. And we're just like going on in the car. It was so fun. And it was such a fun and wild moment. And yeah, it was something that on the way driving over there, I did have a flash of a thought of like, should I record this? And then I just thought, I just need to tell him, I can't even think about that. So I didn't record his reaction, but it is seared in my memory and I will never ever forget it. And so then the two of us he and I went to Starbucks, and then we started so we started discussing the whole thing, and he said, well, when did we get pregnant? And I said, it was a few days before Disney. And he was so cute. His reaction to that was, our baby's already been to Disney. And he was like so excited. And it was one of the happiest, most joyful moments of my life to get to tell him. When I found out, I was so shocked that it was like the shock overcame every other emotion, but telling him, and he was just instantly just thrilled. And so getting to celebrate with him, it was like the best of the best. So anyway, then we're driving to Starbucks to go get coffee. And we drive back to his studio and we're talking about telling people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to start telling people, like I need to tell people whatever. So to back up a small amount, I had that infertility appointment was like going to be that at the end of that week. I think this was a Wednesday that we found out. And that Friday we had this appointment, and I had told my parents that we were going to it, because we had sat down after a lot of months of not talking to anyone about what was going on. In January, we sat down with a couple of close friends and my parents and Riley's mom. Riley's dad passed away about 18 years ago of cancer, unfortunately. And so we know he's smiling down on us from heaven and just so excited with us. But we talked to Riley's mom and my parents about our struggle, and those were really, really hard conversations to have, lots of tears and sadness. So they were in the loop at this point. They were in the loop. And so anyway, my parents and I and Riley had planned on FaceTiming after the appointment on Friday evening so we could tell them what had been what the doctor said and what, our next steps were. So I said to Riley, let's get on FaceTime on Friday afternoon and tell them then that it was not an infertility appointment, but because I actually had my first prenatal appointment on that Friday instead, let's tell them that that's what we did instead. And he was like, okay. And so I only had to wait 2 days to tell them, longest 2 days of my life. I could not wait to tell them. So that's what we did. Now, I didn't record a lot of people's reactions, but I did record my parents' reaction, and it is awesome, and I'm going to share it with you here. So that you'll hear me say we didn't go to an infertility appointment, we went to a prenatal appointment, and you know why now, because that was the original plan for the week, and then things changed dramatically quickly. So here is that clip of my parents finding out.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. So we want to talk to you about today and kind of what happened. So the appointment today was actually not an infertility appointment. It was a prenatal appointment because we found out last week that we're pregnant.
Oh!
What do you think about that?
That's awesome. That's so freaking awesome.
So fun. It was so fun telling them. We also told Riley's mom and sisters within a week of finding out. We told everyone, individually in person. And directly after I FaceTimed with my parents, I FaceTimed with my sister, who is also pregnant. And she had just found out she was pregnant. And now I know she's having a little baby boy, and his name is going to be Henry. Oh, so cute. And I could not wait to tell Allie, my sister. I could not wait to tell her, because we had always talked about being pregnant together, and since we got married, we've always talked about that. But we just never knew. You just never know. Each person's lives, you don't know how, you don't know timing or how anything's going to work out, and you can't plan for that. So we didn't know what was going to happen. Well, I was so excited to get to be pregnant with her. And so I called her, and she was just thrilled, and we just cried and laughed, and we were so excited. And it was so fun telling her and telling Riley's mom. She was thrilled for us and so relieved and excited. And then telling his sisters, they just cried, and it was just so special. It was so special to tell people. So we told our immediate families very, very quickly, basically immediately. We wanted the support. We wanted people to be praying for us, and we just needed that buffer of support. I told a couple of close friends very quickly. And then slowly over the past, I'm 15 weeks today, since we found out at like what, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that. And so from then, over the past 10 weeks, I've slowly told different people in different ways. I've texted some people, you know, who I don't talk to all the time. And then like my friend Olivia came to visit, and she was already planning on visiting. And I was like, I'm gonna wait to tell her until she gets here. So when she got here, I told her, and that was like such a joyous moment. And it has been such a joy to get to share this story with others, with friends and family, and just like, it's just been really fun. So we've told all kinds of people, but yeah, telling my parents was a highlight of my life. I mean, telling Riley was like the best, and then telling my parents and my sister, who, like I said, is also pregnant and due 8 weeks, we're only due 8 weeks apart. There's nothing like that. We were just thrilled. We were thrilled. So ever since then, I've had, you know, of course, appointments, and I'll show you the ultrasound at 8 weeks. Our last time that we had an ultrasound was 8 weeks. We have another one coming up in another couple weeks here. We heard the heartbeat for the first time, and I'll show you the picture and the audio of that right now.
It's going.
It's so amazing.
That is 157 beats a minute on the heart rate, so that's great. 120 to 180 is the normal range. 157, that's perfect.
There has never been a moment in my life like that one. It was so cool. I couldn't believe that there was a baby in my belly. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. So we were just thrilled, so thrilled. I don't know what other word to use. Just over the moon, ecstatic, so excited, so grateful, and just humbled. Like, I just felt so humbled because I knew that I had tried to eat the right things and do all the right things and time everything perfectly and all of 2018, and we didn't get pregnant. And I knew that getting pregnant when we did here, it was none of my own doing. It was like God's gift, completely his gift to us, like totally undeserved. It was such a cool the timing was so cool, because here I am, like, going to Disney, riding rides, not thinking about anything, like not doing all the right things, like totally not trying to control anything, just living my life and just hoping that as we get back and go into these appointments that we'll start to figure things out. And in that moment, like, we get this amazing gift, and it was just like, it was so amazing. And just, I don't know how else to say it. It was like the coolest thing of my life. I'm trying to scroll through my blog post so I can get back on track, because I'm just going on and on. So yeah, telling everyone was just amazing. It was so fun. It was so fun. Okay. So this video is long, but I mean, you guys knew it was going to be long because you could see the timestamp. So I'm just going to keep going. All right, let's get to like I have on my blog post, I have like a section of questions and answers, and these are like the most common things people have asked me as I've shared that I'm pregnant, and so I want to share them here. The first question people always ask is, how have you been feeling? My first trimester was very difficult in the health department. My heart was super happy, but my body was super sick. I struggled really heavily with nausea and vomiting, like almost complete food aversion. I could barely eat anything, like barely eat anything for my entire first trimester. And even now I'm struggling some at 15 weeks. Really rough. The fatigue and exhaustion of the first trimester for me personally was overwhelming. I felt like taking a shower for me required taking a nap afterwards. I felt so depleted. My energy felt so depleted, and it was very, very hard to keep up with housework, to keep up with Etsy, to keep up with literally anything. I mean, it really exhausted. The amount of respect that I have for moms of all kinds has grown 1,000-fold since I've gotten pregnant, because I had no idea how hard the first trimester could be. It really has not been a cakewalk. Like I said, my spirits have been so happy, but I have felt so ill. So ill. I've had really bad headaches a lot, which has been something that's been hard to kind of manage and figure out how to deal with. Like I said, food aversions, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, like I just have not felt well at all. I will say that the further I get into the second trimester, with each week that passes, I am starting to feel little by little a little more like myself, but I definitely still am dealing with some of that. For sure, I'm dealing with some of that. I'm hoping that people always talk about that second trimester magic of like feeling really good and you have a little bump. I'm really hoping that comes true. Of course, another question people ask is, when are you due? I am due in late October, and we're really excited about it. So that's when I'm due. Then people always ask, do you know if you're having a girl or a boy? Are you going to find out, and do you have a preference? No, we do not know. Yes, we are finding out. No, we do not have a preference. The follow-up question to that is, do you have any mother's intuition? I have zero. You guys, I have zero. I absolutely was convinced before I got pregnant that I would be one of those women who just knew, who had like dreams about the baby being a boy or a girl, or just had this like strong inclination. Like I really thought I would be one of those people, and I have not at all. I mean, I couldn't guess. I just don't know. I have no idea. I would love to hear if you have a strong feeling one way or the other, because I've had a few friends and family in my life who have said, oh my gosh, I totally think it's a girl, or I totally think it's a boy. So if you, for some reason, have some feeling that I'm having one or the other, comment it below. I would love to hear. And we do not have a preference. We are so excited to be pregnant, and whoever this baby is, we are just going to be head over heels for. So, we do not know, but we are finding out. We will find out in mid-May, and I'll probably share online sometime in early June after I share with friends and family whether we're having a boy or a girl. Another question that I get a lot is, do you have names picked out? You know, a girl name or a boy name, and are you going to share it? We do not have names picked out at all. This is another thing that I thought that I would be on top of, but because I've been feeling so sick, it's been like one of the last things that I've thought about. Of course we will, maybe not of course, we hope to choose a name after we find out whether the baby is a boy or a girl. We hope to choose a name before I deliver, but I don't think we're going to share it. I don't think we're going to share it online, and I don't think we're going to share it with friends and family. I think it's going to be private to us, and it will be a surprise to everyone when the baby is born. Lots of opinions in both of our families, and I think it's best for all of our mental health to decide amongst ourselves and wait until the baby is born. We might change our minds on that, but for now, that's kind of what we're thinking. People are asking, a lot of people have asked, am I showing yet? Do I have a bump? I do. I have a little bump, and some days it's a little bigger than others, but it's not too big, and I'm still wearing my non-maternity normal regular clothes. I have picked up a few pairs of jeans and shorts and things like that from like motherhood maternity that have those like panels in this side, those stretchy panels and things like that. But I haven't really needed to wear them quite yet, but I know my time is coming because I can feel my clothes getting tighter, and I can feel my belly rounding out, which is exciting. Another question I've gotten, or I guess I wrote in my blog post, I haven't really gotten it yet because when I published this blog post was part of my announcement, but I know I'm going to, is, are you going to document and share your pregnancy online? The answer to that is yes, but the caveat to that is I am feeling very like weirdly mama bear protective over this pregnancy experience. I think a huge part of that is that it was a winding journey to get here, and it is so sacred and so precious to me, and I'm just not interested in lots of judgmental opinions and judgmental questions and things like that. And I know that literally 99% of you are lovely, wonderful people who totally subscribe to the you do your thing, girl, I'm gonna do my thing, we can all live in harmony. But you guys know there's always a few people who have to throw out their opinions, and so I'm not sure. I would like to do at least like trimester recaps. I definitely want to share doing the nursery. I might share like some baby finds and like hauls and things like that. I'm not exactly sure how much I'm going to document and share my pregnancy, but I want to some degree. Similarly, people I know will ask about sharing the baby once the baby is here. I really want to introduce the baby to you guys and show y'all his or her little sweet little face and his or her name and, you know, that kind of thing. And as the baby grows, I definitely would love to share milestones. As far as day-to-day sharing, I don't know yet. I don't know. That's a decision, right? Like in this century, every parent has to think about how much or how little they want to share their baby online. So that's a decision that all of you who have children have made, and that we are in the process of trying to discern and figure out what's going to work for our family. A lot of people have asked if our dog Charlie has been acting any different. Yes, he has. In fact, the night before I found out I was pregnant, he came and I was laying in bed and he laid right on my belly and put his little paws up right on my belly, like right where my uterus is, like my lower abdomen. And I didn't think anything of it because, once again, I had no concept that there was even a possibility that I could be pregnant. But I took a picture of it, and I'll put that picture on the screen here. It's a really cute picture, and I was like, this is so weird. Why is he doing this? I kept saying to Riley, like, why is Charlie laying on top of me? He cuddles up next to me all the time, but never on top of me. So it was very, very odd, but I think he totally knew. And since then, he's been a lot more clingy and cuddly to me, specifically around my belly, my abdomen. So if I'm laying on the couch or the bed, he'll come and curl up right there. It's really, really sweet. I hope he is just best buds with the baby when the baby arrives in October. A lot of people have been asking me about cravings and food aversions. I'm just going to go off my list on my phone for my cravings. Bagels and cream cheese have been my #1 craving, and the only thing that I can stomach on much of the first trimester. I survived off of only bagels and cream cheese. Starbucks chocolate croissants have been a craving of mine. Any kind of cold and icy dessert, so things like Italian ice, snowballs, slushies, sweet drinks, anything like that. And then sweet drinks like Gatorade, soda, lemonade, fruit punch, those have been a major craving. So because I've been so nauseous, eating properly has definitely been a challenge in terms of eating colorful meals, lots of fruits and veggies. Like, some of that stuff just sounds so awful. So I'm doing the best I can, but I've been assured over and over again that our bodies are amazing and they give the baby what it needs, even when we are eating just bagels and cream cheese. So I'm trying, and as I'm starting to come out of the woods of nausea, my meals are getting more balanced, but it definitely has been hard. Food aversions is like basically everything else. I can't really even talk about the things today that are food aversions for me because I'll start gagging, like literally, but it's been really like so many food aversions. I am on anti-nausea medicine, and even with that, some days it is just like everything. And things that even like dry crackers, like goldfish crackers or something like that, will make me sick. So I never really know. Taking vitamins, even like I had to switch over to chewable vitamins, and even those, even thinking about them now, awful. Really hard to take those. My food aversions, just like the nausea, that's all been lifting some as I've gotten into my second trimester. So those are kind of the main questions. Now let me go over to Instagram and look at some of the questions that I have gotten on. I've had a few people ask about if I have been dealing with, ever since I got pregnant, like worry and anxiety about miscarriage and losing the baby or things like that. Of course, that has been something that I've thought about, but I have to say that it is definitely, I have been held in this, I just keep saying, like, I feel like I'm being held in this holy peace. My heart has been very, very, very peaceful. This pregnancy was such a gift and such an unexpected surprise for us that I have just like cherished each day. Now, for women who have had a miscarriage or have had recurrent losses, I am sure that this story is really different, and I have not been in your shoes. And so I'm not speaking on behalf of you, but in my experience, I have not been battling a lot of anxiety or worry with regards to that, probably mostly because I haven't had to go through it, and I'm really sorry if you have had to go through that. So that's a question that I got several times. A lot of people have asked if I felt the baby move yet. I have not. I have not. A lot of people have asked about the nursery. So which bedroom is going to be the nursery, and how am I going to decorate for the nursery, and am I going to share decorating for the nursery? Our house has 4 bedrooms. If you've watched my vlogs and you're sort of familiar with it, we have our master bedroom on one side, and then we have 3 bedrooms kind of down one hallway. One bedroom is the guest room. The middle bedroom we have always called Riley's room, and it has an Xbox and a big couch and a TV. And then the other one is my office, which is what I'm sitting in right now. Riley's room from the beginning of time has always been what is going to be the nursery. We will always need a guest bedroom because my family lives across the country and they come to visit a lot, and I need an office to work in because I work from home. So I think what we're going to try to do is combine my office to some degree with the things that Riley has, or I just feel bad stripping him of his space because even though when we moved in, we always said, he was kind of like, well, I'm gonna like set up my Xbox in here and stuff. I know once we have a baby, I'll have to move it. But I feel really bad because it's been his space and it's whatever. So we have to figure that out. But that is going to be the room. It's kind of the corner bedroom that we have. And I definitely will share decorating it. Because we don't know if the baby's a boy or a girl, I don't know how much that's going to influence my design. Right now, what I really want is a lot of neutrals, very, very soft tones, soft colors. Like I'm thinking like lots of like tans and creams and whites and grays. Like I have seen some nurseries on Pinterest that are just like this beautiful light and airy, very like relaxing nursery, and I really like that. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. But that might change. Like if we find out the baby is a girl, maybe I'll want to add more, whatever, florals or something like that. If the baby's a boy, I might want to change it. So I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm leaning toward, is a very like soft and neutral nursery. That really speaks to me, those pictures that I've seen, and I would definitely love to share doing the nursery. So you can expect that. I definitely plan on doing that. A lot of people have been asking how Riley's feeling and what he's doing. I don't want to speak for him, but I'm going to speak for him right now. He was originally supposed to come home for lunch, and I was going to have him film a segment here, but he just texted me and said that he's not going to. So I want to be able to get this video up. He is absolutely thrilled and so excited to have this baby. I think both of us have different things that we're kind of nervous about and things that we're kind of excited about. But overall, he has just been like so excited every single night. It's really sweet when we lay in bed, and before we pray and turn off our lights and go to sleep, he always puts his hands, since the very first night that I found out I was pregnant, he puts his hands on my belly and he tells the baby about our day and about his day, and it's like, I just love it so much. So he's really thrilled and excited. And I know that we're both really excited to find out if it's a boy or a girl. Have you had any crazy dreams? Yes. I have had some of the weirdest dreams of my life. I have not had nightmares. They have not been scary. They're just so weird. I get weird. They're so weird. I wake up and I'm like, what is going on? A great question. Someone said, has your pregnancy affected your scoliosis at all? So I have scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine. I've had it I've had it my whole life, but I found out about it when I was in 5th grade. So it's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. And it causes chronic back pain, of course. And I will say that so far it has not been any worse. I don't know that that's going to last, unfortunately. I hope so, but I would imagine that the strain of a belly and the way that will change my balance and things like that, I don't know that that's going to make my back feel like top notch. I've continued to go to my massage therapist and chiropractor, and I'm starting to see a chiropractor, I think next week, who specifically adjusts pregnant women. So, and that's like what she does full time. So I'm going to go start seeing her instead of my other one. So hopefully we can manage that the best we can. It kind of is what it is. I do have a journal. I have an Erin Condren journal. It says, "Oh Baby" on the front of it that I've been using. That's like specifically for tracking your pregnancy. Some people asked if I have any morning sickness remedies. Y'all, no, I do not. The thing that helped me the most was I was recommended to go and take each night to take a Unisom, which is actually a sleep aid, and vitamin B6 together, to take a vitamin B6 pill and a Unisom each night. And something about that combination of ingredients apparently really helps pregnant women with nausea. And so I started taking that once that was recommended to me each evening, and that definitely made a massive difference. That was my best remedy. But like ginger ale didn't really work for me. Saltines didn't work for me. I mean, like, not a lot worked for me. I really felt sick quite a lot. When are you going to take the baby to Disney? We are already planning a trip for when the baby is 1. So sometime maybe next October of 2020 or November of 2020. We talk about it all the time. We cannot wait. We cannot wait. A lot of people asked about being far away from my family, right? Because what's really crazy is that this August, it will be a decade since I have lived in Maryland, which is where I grew up all my life and where most of my whole family, like immediate close family is, and a lot of my extended family lives in Maryland too. So I'm like the odd bird that moved away. So people have said, like, isn't that going to be so hard? You're going to be away from your parents. You're going to be away from your sister. So the answer is yes and no. So on one hand, of course, I would love if my sister and I could like get together all the time and go out to lunch and things like that. She and I text and talk constantly around the clock. At 3 a.m. when we're awake because we feel sick or because we can't sleep, we'll be texting. I mean, we talk like all the time, so that's been really, really fun. You know, yeah, I mean, a part of me, of course, wishes that we lived closer, but the other thing that's sometimes hard to explain that I think other people who have moved away and just knew that it was the right thing for them and for their journey and their life, it's hard to explain is, although I love my family and I genuinely wish that I lived closer to them, I have never felt like I should live there. And when I go and visit my hometown, I have never in the past 10 years felt like I'm in the wrong place and like I'm supposed to be living there. I'm very assured and secure that I'm meant to be here. And so because of that, I don't like sit around wishing that I lived there because I just know it's not where I'm meant to be. I know that the people that are meant to be there are meant to be there and that I'm meant to be here and this is where my life is meant to be for this time. And so I hope that doesn't sound like I don't want to be near my family. It's just this assurance that I know I'm supposed to be here. I will say though that I feel this draw, like I need and want to like talk to my mom and sister and my family way more frequently. Like whereas I would talk to them once a week, twice a week, now I want to talk to them every day. I feel this like need to be near them, like in contact with them now while I'm pregnant, way more than before. Like I said, we would talk a couple times a week, we would text, things like that, but now it's like I am texting and talking to all of them like basically every day, like a lot. So I am planning on going up there this summer like 3 or 4 times. I'm going, as time goes on, I'll share more about when I'm going to see them, but I'm going up in June. I'm going up actually 2 times in June. I'm going up in early August. I'm going up to visit them quite a few times, sometimes with Riley, sometimes without Riley, and those flights and everything are already all booked. So yeah, I miss them. I always miss them. And, there's a part of me that wishes I were closer to them for this experience, but overall I know I'm where I'm meant to be, and I'm really excited that I have the opportunity to go visit them quite a lot this summer. Really thankful for that. So many people who are just so sweet saying thank you, you know, not saying thank you, I'm saying thank you, who said that they're just so excited, we're so happy for you. I mean, I just really appreciate that. Several people asked me if I had any like advice about trying to conceive. I guess my best piece of advice would be to find a therapist, very seriously, because although, you know, there's so many resources, and like the book Taking Charge of Your Fertility was life-changing for me in learning about my body and cycle. So I do recommend that. If you've never learned about your body or cycle, that might be something that's a really valuable resource to you. But overall, I think seeing a professional, especially if you are in that place where you've been trying even if you've been trying for a few months and it's just starting to get hard, I really do recommend seeking out a therapist and seeking out someone who is a professional who can help you move through those feelings and emotions, because that made a huge difference for me, a really big difference, like night and day difference. So I don't know that I am chock full of tips. I really crumbled, like I wasn't my best self for sure, but that really did help. Really did help to have someone who I could go and I could talk to. A few people have asked, like, are we going to move into a larger home, or are we planning on moving? When we bought this home, first of all, we love our home, but we definitely did not see ourselves. This is like not the place that we plan on being for the rest of our marriage and for the rest of our lives. So yeah, I do think we'll move. I could see us moving in the next 2 to 5 years, something like that. That is a huge can of worms conversation, like huge, like another video that's an hour long. So for now, I'm just gonna say not before the baby is born. We're not planning on moving before the baby is born, but it's not something that's off the table. In fact, it's very much on the table for, like I said, maybe in the next 2 to 5 years, something like that, to move into not even necessarily a larger home, although I think we would both like a little bit more space in different areas of our home if we could you know, pull that off. A bigger backyard would be great, things like that, but just a different layout might work better for us. I don't know. But not right now, not in the near future. A lot of people asked about telling our family, telling Riley. I went over that. Possible baby names. I don't know. If you have any names that you love that you think sound good with the last name Lamb, I am so open to hearing your suggestions. Someone asked what the hardest adjustment has been so far. The hardest adjustment has been so far that I just feel sick. And so it's really hard to get things done when I'm feeling so ill. Really, right now I feel good. In the past few days I've been feeling really good and I'm so grateful for that. But pretty much every single day of the first trimester I felt very ill. And that's really hard. It's just really hard. It's hard to get through the day. It's hard to get things done when you just want to lay in bed and you feel like you're going to vomit all the time. So that's definitely for sure been the hardest adjustment, is that I'm not in control of my body, and I have to kind of let go of that and let go of expectations of what I am going to do and what I'm not going to do. Someone asked, will my family come help once the baby is born? Yes, my parents definitely plan on coming and staying with me for a little while, especially my mom. She definitely plans on coming and staying for a few weeks. Riley's sister have already said they'll come over and help me. His mom will come over and help me. So I know I'll have lots of help and support, which I'm really grateful for. Someone said, did you suspect before you took your test? I think I've already answered that. No, I did not suspect at all. Someone said, did you reveal to your families in an elaborate way or just in a normal conversation? We were so excited about this news. I always thought I would be one of those women who would like order all these fun things off Etsy and have all these onesies and these little things. And I love when people do that to announce a pregnancy. I did not do any of that. It was just like, oh my gosh, we're pregnant. It was like, it just came out. So definitely more just in a conversational way. The only person who I did something special for was my friend Olivia. When she came to visit, I got her a little mug that says best auntie ever, and I gave it to her, and that's how I told her. So that was really fun to tell her. But everyone else just got like a very excited, here's the news. Oh my gosh, you guys are so sweet. There's several people who are asking if they can send me something to my P.O. box. You can, I just don't want you to feel like you have to at all. Your kind words and comments and things like that mean everything to me. So I don't want you to feel like you have to, but if you want to send like a card, you absolutely can. And I would cherish it. I just don't, there's no pressure or expectation from me whatsoever to do that. My P.O. box is listed in every single video description box, but again, I have no expectation of anything whatsoever. I just appreciate y'all being excited with us so much. Lots of questions. How are you feeling right now? How are you feeling? So let's end on that. I am feeling so humbled, honored, excited, hopeful, joyful, just full of joy is what I'm feeling. I just feel so excited to be here. I feel like I can't wait to see what the rest of this pregnancy journey looks like. I cannot wait to meet this baby. I cannot wait to find out whether we're having a boy or a girl. I can't wait for my sister's baby to be here and for my baby and my sister's baby to grow up together. I'm excited about literally everything. I can't wait for my belly to grow. I can't wait to decorate the nursery. I just am so excited about everything. I mean, I can't wait to get a stroller, and I can't wait to get a car seat, and I can't wait. I'm like over the moon is how I'm feeling. Physically, like I said, I'm still dealing with some of that nausea, vomiting, food aversions, that kind of thing, but it really is getting better, and I'm so grateful for that, and I'm hoping that it will continue to get better as the weeks go on. So that's how I'm feeling. I literally cried like all day yesterday after I posted on Instagram that I was pregnant. I was so blown away. I could not believe the number of people who left such kind, sweet comments, who were so excited for us, people who messaged me, people who, I mean, on every platform. It was like shocking, the outpouring of love and support. And I just kept crying. Like, I just kept crying and crying, and Riley would look over at me and I'd be on my phone. He's like, are you crying again? And I couldn't believe that people who have never met me were just sharing in our joy. And I just want to thank you so much. If this is the first time you're finding out, if you made it through this whole long video, I just thank you so much. I just feel so humbled. I feel so humbled to be here, and I feel so humbled to have so many people who are excited for us. It is like blowing my mind. I'm just so excited. I'm so grateful to God for this gift of this baby, and I'm just so excited. So with that, I want to wrap up this very long video. Thank you for following along, especially if you watch this whole thing. You definitely get a gold star. Definitely leave below if you have a prediction on whether the baby is a boy or a girl. If you have names that you love that go with the last name Lamb, would love to hear them. And if you have anything else that you want to share about your story or your journey or your children or your world or whatever, you know I always love to chat with you guys in the comments. Be aware that as with every video, I have a comment policy. It's always listed in my description box so you can read it. Riley, my husband, approves all my comments for me, and so he always says, if I wouldn't let someone say it to you in our living room, then I'm not going to let them say it to you online, which I highly appreciate. So just be aware of that, you know, there is a comment policy in place for that reason. But we are so thrilled. I'm so happy to be in this place and so excited for the future. And I'm so happy to be able to share this journey with you guys. So I hope you have a really great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching. Sending you a really big hug, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.